Quick background. These are my companies. I've been in the global transport space for the last sort of 25 years, looking at transport decarbonisation for sort of the last, coming up on 8 to 10 years. Obviously a lot of presentations and businesses today. It's an interesting tapestry of businesses here, and obviously some of them very different to what we do, but quite often there is a transport task attached to what we're doing here. I think this transport topic is very central. What we've sort of observed over the last number of years is probably the lack of demand signals into the transport sector to decarbonise. It's a very complex space for a range of reasons, but I think that's sort of accelerated, if it's the right way to put it, its positioning around being one of the hard to abate sectors and sort of forecasted to be one of the biggest emitters, the biggest emitter in Australia by 2030. So it's a significant challenge. So focusing today around data to drive, emissions in the reduction in the transport sector. Scope 3 emissions are really it's a difficult area, and when we first started back in 2016, and particularly around logistics carbon accounting, there was really poor data, really no transparency at all, and We've took the view then that this was a digital solution that needed to be created, and still take that view today to get really deep insights into logistics emissions. Obviously, logistics is only one component of our Scope 3 categories, but it's still a very probably inaccurate and misunderstood area. In the transport sector, it's obviously fragmented. You have many different logistics providers, different modes of transport, transactional data. It's very complex. And I guess getting access to that data has been very problematic, and I think this has been one of the challenges that cargo owners have been faced with. We've observed the sort of the pace of change around carbon accounting in the logistics sector has been somewhat stifled by, a view that higher level metrics are still okay to be using within the sector. Mainly probably due to a lack of solutions, but we're again moving into a time where there are better tools available that give customers, shippers, better insights into the true state of their logistics emissions. And this is becoming, really important as we move to sort of 2030, the first sort of goalposts around carbon reduction and particularly within supply chains, as these, climate-related reporting tasks increase. And disclosure around climate-related risks increase. The risks associated to not having good data and your numbers right is really increasing. So from our perspective, the collection and aggregation of data is becoming critical. We've taken the view that there's kind of a let's call it progress over perfection approach, where within the logistics sector there's this expectation that a shipper will be able to just go to any logistics provider and ask them for data around the carbon footprint and it'll be readily available for them. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it's sort of stifling movement around getting these insights. So within our organisations, Zilch and Laderen, and just to briefly explain the difference between the two, Zilch is a freight forwarding business, so we work in probably largely the SME space, helping them move freight through the supply chain, international or domestic, with a high priority around low carbon outcomes, so looking for ways to optimise the freight through the supply chain, whether that be modal shift or greener vessels to move product on or whatnot. The Laderen business is a tech business, so we purely deploy that tech into a business that's looking for those insights and is not really looking for a freight solution. So should have mentioned that at the start. So more of a Laderen play, but our approach is to leverage existing data within transport operations. So or even on the shipper side, quite often there's readily available data around what we moved, who we sent it to, and typically the modes of transport. So we take that data, enrich that a little bit, and sort of drive modelling, which gives us really, really good deep insights into the logistics carbon footprint, and that's at a transactional level. So we're not top down looking into a supply chain, it's effectively bottom up. Take transport data, model the emissions, and obviously be able to report on those in meaningful ways. talking about the problem and I guess the solutions that we have available, that what does that really mean? And like I said, we started on data. We thought the data wasn't good at this when we, I guess, put our business models together initially. We still see the data isn't great. Through real-world applications and working with customers in the market, we've seen still today the size of the prize is pretty significant. Working in the distilling space, we found a customer that was, and they're happy for us to sort of articulate this, was overstating the logistics emissions by 60 or 70%, I think it was. And this is a climate active certified business that then has sort of a cost associated to that logistics carbon reporting task. And that's not uncommon. Another really good example that we found, which sort of, very much interested us, was that we had a brick customer that was importing a lot of stuff from overseas. They were getting pushback in the market here from architects and buyers of these products saying, well, this is all imported product, it's carbon intensive, you're shipping it halfway across the planet. So working with them and their supply chain and sustainability teams, we were able to both deliver insights into what the true state of the emissions were, but also then drive reduction strategies that loop back into the both the EPDs, the environmental product declarations of the products, or the LCAs of the products, displacing the default data that's often used, which is typically overstated. So yeah, a couple of really interesting yet different scenarios where we've derived value for the customers in the logistics carbon accounting space. So it's actually again was surprised in both of these instances that this deriving value through this logistics carbon accounting practice was able to offer value into other areas. One of the other key challenges we found as working in this space is that and why we've put these business models into the market is that we often find that sustainability people are really good at understanding carbon. Transport people understand transport really well, and there's this significant void in the middle where I guess the granularity of transport spooks the sustainability people that don't know how to approach it, so we take high-level metrics, whereas the transport operators and supply chain practitioners are really focused around cost and time and digital. There's no carbon literacy, we say, within the supply chain team. So bringing these two together, and I guess that's where our technology plays a key role to, again, link into existing supply chain data, surface emissions information that's both valuable to the sustainability team to get better accuracy, but also within the supply chain teams to them getting their head around what carbon actually means. These TMS systems are a goldmine, really, with, what we move, where we moved it, weights, etc. Easy to leverage that, extrapolate it out to get deep insights. And we also take the view that shippers and manufacturers, this is data that you should have within your business. If we wait for the logistics sector to provide this information, we'll be waiting a long time. I think there'll be some sort of performers within the logistics sector that will provide it now, but there's going to be a really long tail. As we know, the logistics sector in Australia, particularly trucking, is very fragmented, a lot of mum and dad operators, so that getting sort of universal data is going to be problematic. I mean, our roadmap says that we'll have primary data at some point and we will start to plug these primary data inputs in, but at the minute, most of it's not there, so we can't wait for that to get moving. So, quick summary, it's taking existing transport-related data, modelling the emissions from a bottom-up approach, looking at some really specific items within that calculation around the types of trucks, the types of planes we're using, the types of ships, routes and all these sorts of things, bringing that through to the sustainability reporting and through that process increasing carbon literacy within supply chain and transport teams. But importantly, that then gives us a view to actionable change. So, whether that be modal shift opportunities, what is the low-hanging fruit we have within once we've been able to get these sort of deeper insights to start driving change. And what we say is that for the the transport sector to start to decarbonise properly, there's obviously a lot of talk around electrification and sort of the fuel transition, but Also, we need to operationalise the process of optimising from a carbon perspective. So when we go to move a container of wine from Melbourne to Felixstowe, whatever it is, what's the greenest possible vessel we can put that container of wine on board to make sure that we're getting the best outcome when operationally executing. And we've seen variability of sort of 30 to 40% on any one vessel compared to another. So, and these decisions can be made really easy if you've got access to the data. So we see that's a really important process. So, our pitch is that sustainable logistics is not about the future, it's about transforming how we operate today. So the tools are here now to drive, we'll certainly surface the information that we can make better decisions. So from data to decarbonisation, the tools are here and it's time to act. That's our call to action.